Welcome to the Earth Chronicles. Today's video is on the State of the Union 2020. The State of the Union during the summer of 2020 is precarious at best. You name it and has been thrown at the public. From coronavirus to police shootings and riots to an economic meltdown. The lives of all citizens have been affected in one way or another. Unfortunately, there will likely be additional fallout regarding the negative events going on the past several months of the year. The virus and the shootings are horrific and despicable events, especially when taken together. We do not think any of this was by accident. See our earlier videos on the virus and shootings for details. The chronicles believe that both the civil unrest and the virus stem from the same group of people, the henchmen for the elite. Today, we would like to cover a different aspect as to what is going on. Just why did COVID-19 and the shootings occur at the same time? Regarding the shootings, there is more involved than just the isolated instances. Yes, there is racial discrimination, but there are other underlying factors as well. It is the same old story of the haves and the have-nots. Many blacks are not born into situations where they always have a roof over their head and food on the table. Some are worried where they are going to sleep tonight. When you do not graduate from high school and you cannot find a job, you are forced to survive on the streets. Younger kids see older brothers and friends making good money selling drugs. It is hard not to give in to the temptation of drug dealing and gangs. This is not condoning such lifestyles. It is simply stating one of the many reasons why they occur. And let us not forget, the 1% that own 90% of the world's wealth is well aware they are feeding off the other 99%. All things are thoughts made manifest. You can't build a house until you have the thought, I want to build a house. You get pictures and ideas in your head on how you want it to look, and you hired an architect to design the house. The finished project is nothing more than a thought made manifest. All things work accordingly. Nothing comes into existence that is not first thought of as an idea, even our children. So what kind of thoughts made the virus manifest? Only abhorrent thoughts instigated from the dark side could cause such an abomination to walk the earth. And we are talking about lots of energy here, which means lots of thoughts. Not just individual thoughts, but complex thought forms that manifest with millions of other like-minded thoughts. What could cause all this to happen? Bad karma, not just individual karma, but group karma and planetary karma as well. A major paradigm shift regarding the future of our planet is presently taking place. What kind of thoughts would provide the fuel for such karma? How about slavery, human trafficking, torture, pedophile rings, satanic rituals, wars or bloodbaths, drug trafficking, the elite using third world nations for cheap labor under horrendous living conditions, the international banks that pillage third world countries for their oil, gas, minerals, and other natural resources. Perhaps we should not have dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. It was a cruel act of terrorism. Maybe we should not have killed all the Indians. Cosmic law ensures the bad guys get what is coming to them. Those grounded in the light need to move forward in the eternal order of progression from whence they came, to return to a spiritual state when we did not have physical bodies. Physical incarnation is what changed man's life to a world where he and all other beings, animals, and life forms are corruptible, a world of death and decay. But remember, that which is not made is incorruptible. The incorruptible is immortal, Tatwamasi, thou art that.
And reform and break apart and reform constantly. Civilizations rise and fall. How will we relate to that change? If our conscience is clear, we go through change with grace, with objectivity, with mental poise. That's what he means by adhering to the law of karma. Violating the law of karma means putting causes in which are selfish in nature. And we see this in the way that people are reacting to the coronavirus. What will happen to me? And we touched on this a couple of weeks ago, that people are gathering together to pray to God to take away this virus. Why? Because it might affect me. And the worst part of it is that we take that egocentric attitude and we try to paint it with a veneer of devotion or holiness and say, I'm praying to God to help humanity. Nope. I'm praying to God because I'm worried that me or my loved ones may get sick. We don't pray to God to alleviate the suffering of millions upon millions of creatures every day. We don't pray to God to alleviate the suffering of those stricken by war, famine, disease, and poverty in parts of the world that we frankly don't see and don't care to see. But the moment it seems to touch me and my ego, then all of a sudden I get elevated into the heights of heaven. So this is indicating the degree of selfishness. First of all, it's part of the cause for the destruction, and it contributes to the way that we personally experience the world.
Same is true regarding the shootings and riots. There is a lot of negative energy on both sides. The cops doing the shooting, the individual shot, and those protesting the shootings. Different individuals have different reasons for their actions. Nevertheless, they stem from the same inner sources, the 7 deadly sins that go against cosmic law: pride, greed, envy, wrath, lust, gluttony, and sloth. The police seem to overreact to certain situations they find themselves in. Nevertheless, they do have to handle highly energized encounters. Adrenaline is a powerful hormone that causes severe reactions very quickly. Unless one has been trained under such circumstances, the proper control to handle the situation will not be available to the individual. This is why the police need more training and psychological screening. The police are allowed to carry guns that can be used against a person they think is committing a crime. That is a powerful position to be in, and it requires extreme discipline to be handled correctly. The police need to be trained with the same tactics that special forces are trained with. How to react in split seconds to the most intense situations possible, and especially how to de-escalate such encounters with the public. Nevertheless, there is a predisposition among the police to handle encounters with blacks and other minorities differently than with white people. The history of the white man's treatment of blacks goes back thousands of years. Slavery is the oldest curse known to man. It is buried deep within man's emotional nature and needs to be cleansed. The elite use other whites as indentured servants, let alone minorities. Our country was founded on the backs of slaves. In the 1700s in New York, there was a huge wall in front of which they sold slaves. It was known as Wall Street, where the markets are today. Most of the mansions in Rhode Island belong to slave traders. These scars run deep and will not go away on their own. They need help. Almost all Ivy League schools were founded on both slave money and drug money, resulting in the Opium Wars with China. It is easy to see how colored minorities hold ill feelings towards the white man's unfair treatment. Our Constitution that the white man likes to boast is the epitome of liberty, and a free people did not include blacks. The founding fathers all had slaves on their plantations. These deep-rooted feelings need to be cleansed on both sides. The chronicles believe that both the virus and the shootings result from the elite's grab for world domination. The virus kills many useless mouths to feed, while the shootings seem to be an attempt to create civil war. The biggest business in the world is war, and no war occurs by happen chance.
And certainly in American politics for a long time, there have been these people like the John Birch Society who've argued, well, that there's this plot going for the imposition of a one world government and stuff like that. While I don't necessarily agree with the entire narrative that groups like that spin, I do think that there's some kernel of truth to what they're saying, and that we do see power being transferred more and more from independent nations of the kind that emerged in the 19th century during the era of liberalism and nationalism and all of that, towards things like transnational federations and multinational corporations and international financial institutions. That there's this kind of de facto global governmental system developing through things like NATO and the UN and the World Bank, IMF, WTO apparatus, and all of the things that go along with that, the NGOs and all of that kind of stuff. And it's through these kinds of institutions that we have these transnational global elites that have essentially become the world government.
It took thousands of years for this much energy to be created. It is Mother Nature letting us know she is not happy with our behavior. One of the highest forms of Raja Yoga deals with the balancing of all thoughts an individual has issued over numerous lifetimes. It is from this balancing that we take back the light we issued the thought with. Eventually, if we don't destroy the earth first, the balancing will take place on the individual and group level and work its way to the planetary level. The light that can be regenerated is of unknown proportions. It has been said that thousands of suns do not shine as luminous as the light within does. In other words, there is a silver lining to all the bad stuff that is presently going on. Think of how high a fever rises just before it breaks, or how an infected boil swells filled with pus, but once the pus is released, the infection begins to heal. The planet is presently going through such a stage according to the Yuga cycles that we have written about in earlier videos. If we can get all the bad stuff out in the light and corrected, the highest incarnation of man to walk the earth may yet occur during this round. We must remember, however, that all starts with each individual person. If we are not part of the solution, then we definitely are part of the problem. The same is true with the recession, which is a result of reactions to the pandemic. If the economy were really strong, it would not have taken the blow it has. It is the overabundance of debt that is the problem. Savings of sound money would not have let this happen. The virus may be the scapegoat for a monetary policy that is out of control. The elite can now point the finger at the virus and blame it for their monetary transgressions. See our video on a global monetary reset. So what did the Fed and the Treasury do to solve the problem? They created more debt. The Treasury sold Treasury bonds, and the Fed bought them with funny money they created out of thin air. The Treasury then sent a check to every American. Paper money is a debt instrument that pays no interest. Treasury bonds are debt instruments that pay interest. The more debt issued, the more purchasing power money loses. Since the Fed was created in 1913, the purchasing power of Federal Reserve notes has lost 96% of their value. This loss of purchasing power causes prices to go up as more money is chasing the same amount of goods. Paper fiat debt money, Federal Reserve notes, is a wealth transfer mechanism that takes from the many and gives to the few. As an aside, will it really make a difference who is elected president? Will either candidate balance the budget or pay off the national debt? No, they will not. In fact, they will create more debt, not less. Before anything can be corrected, the money debt problem must be corrected, as all problems require money to fix. If more debt money is issued versus gold and silver coin as mandated by the Constitution, the cure for the disease, paper money, is worse than the disease. As for president, neither choice is better than the other. At best, one is less bad than the other. We should seriously think about changing the structure of running for elected office. There should be more than just Republicans and Democrats. CNN is against Trump and for Biden. Fox News is for Trump and against Biden. They remind me of cheerleaders in high school that supported different candidates for student council president. The elections are a horse and pony show and nothing more. We should be ashamed of the presidential debates last night. It was like a third world country presentation. The elite who own and run the world picked the winner. Check out our video, The Council on Foreign Relations, that explains all this in detail. Thus it appears that we are in the beginning stage of a huge shift in consciousness. Things are close to the worst they will get, but we are not quite there. We should be wary of letting a violent revolution take place. If it does, this will be as bad as it gets. Once the cleansing is over, the next epic upwards begin, as the only power that evil has is the power to destroy itself. And this too shall come to pass.